In today's press review, we'll look at some of the comment and reaction in the media to Friday night's terror attacks in Paris, which claimed more than 120 lives. We begin with The New Yorker, which paints a picture of the scene in the city in the wake of the atrocities. Alexandra Schwartz writes, "The usual Parisian scenes, minus the Parisians. The prefecture of police had warned residents not to go outside. It was possible that more shooters would show up. There was the itchy sensation of being stared at by eyes peeking out from behind curtains, flitting from the loop of television news to the street and back again." Schwartz offers an explanation for why the attacks have been so shocking. She links this to the locations, among which were restaurants and bars. She says these are the places where Parisians, young Parisians in particular, gather to participate in the pleasures that Paris wears so simply and openly on every street of every neighborhood, of eating, drinking and conversing. An attack on an institution that represents a certain way of life is easy to condemn and slap a slogan on, but a direct attack on the way of life itself is infinitely more immediate and unfathomably more difficult to know how to respond to. There is a different kind of fear, a personal, persecuted kind of fear in being hunted at a neighborhood restaurant or bar, practically indistinguishable from 1,000 others like it. In The Atlantic, meanwhile, a piece by Conor Friedersdorf considers France's response. He lays out the mistakes the US made after the 9/11 terror attacks. He ends his piece with the following: "None of the foregoing is a call for or against any particular response to the attack on France. A point I emphasize in hopes that America's war on terror hawks at least remain open to the notion that the impulse to react rashly ought to be guarded against. Regardless of one's ideological priors, it's easy to look back at American discourse since 9/11 and find prescient advice that was stigmatized at the time it was offered. Let us learn from that history rather than repeat it." Finally, we turn to The Economist, which offers reflections on how the Paris terror attacks will affect migration policy in the EU, an issue which has for the last 6 months or so become increasingly heated. The newspaper draws a comparison to the aftermath of the Charlie Hebdo attack in Paris last January. The paper writes, "Where the Je suis Charlie demonstrators resisted linking terrorism to migration or Islam, the mood this time has been more ambivalent. The latest attacks seem to hit public spaces at random, a Cambodian restaurant, a football stadium, a concert hall, and some Europeans inevitably began linking the violence to the issue which has dominated their politics for the past 6 months, the wave of refugees streaming into their continent from the Middle East." The paper concludes that where some politicians have avoided inflammatory statements, others have not held back. Ultimately, it fears that divisions in Europe have already grown deeper. It is heartening that Saturday's popular demonstrations of solidarity with France and European leaders' messages of support were full of calls, even if vague ones, not to allow terrorists to divide Europe's citizens against each other. Yet, with border controls going up in one European country after another, it will be hard to maintain that they have not. So, responses to the terror attacks in Paris have been numerous and varied. Today, we've seen just a small selection. Investigations into what happened continue. No doubt more analysis will follow in the coming days. But that's all we have time for today. Join us again tomorrow for another press review. In Kiev, this is Ukraine Today.